What's up, y'all? We're back. Today, what we're gonna be doing is basically going through what my editing workflow is. Someone did actually reach out to me from the YouTube and was like, "Oh, are you gonna make like an editing workflow video? You know, how do you edit your videos? It would be cool to like see what the thought process is." And I was like, "Yeah, bet, yeah, for sure." I didn't know that's the thing that you guys wanted, but here we are. Basically, first thing you want to do is obviously load in your photos from your SD card into your computer and then import them into whatever software that you're using. I personally use Lightroom, both Lightroom, like classic, and also regular Lightroom. I don't really think there's that big of a difference, to be honest. They're honestly, in my opinion, as equally capable. You can get the same results, whatever. Professionally, I don't even think it matters whether you use classic or the other Lightroom. They're basically the same damn thing. But yeah, after you do that, you got everything in. Oh, before we go through anything else, even when before you like start editing your photos, you have to be aware of like what file format that you're actually editing. They actually took your photos in, and so I take all my photos in RAW. I don't even like do the RAW plus JPEG option on some cameras that they have. Like I just do everything in RAW because basically the difference is like raw JPEG. I think I have this in another video. Raw JPEG and like there's some other forms of files. It's like different amounts of information in each, and raw basically has the most amount of information of any photo file, and so you can change the colors and push and pull different aspects of the image as much as you want. Well, at least compared to other types of file formats. And so yeah, that's a big thing. Also, another thing before we start. Um, Editing, I do rely on editing a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Like if I were to, I think I would still have decent pictures. If I had like those recipes or the built-in stuff, and if I was shooting on JPEG, I think I would still have like good pictures. However, I think editing for me is a very, very big part of my workflow. But at the same time, it isn't something that should be like a crutch. You shouldn't be leaning on your edits, right? They should be the flavor of your image and they shouldn't be the substance, if that makes sense, right? Because like at the end of the day, if the image is like ridiculously overexposed, that's not something that's savable, even if it is a raw file, right? Or if it's super underexposed, I mean, well, that's like a little bit debatable, but like editing, don't rely on it as a crutch. Use it more as like a form of expression. And to people that are like, oh my god, it looks over edited. Yeah, like in some cases it might be over edited, and in some cases, it can be what you intended it to be, right? And so, when you're thinking about editing, like always be self-critical, but at the same time, be confident in what your work is. Because when you hire a photographer, you're not just hiring them to just hold the camera and take pictures. You're essentially hiring their editing style. It's because you like the images that they present, right? And that's a really big thing that I wanted to say. So basically, today we're going to be doing is editing three different sets of three different sessions, I should say, that I did recently. The first one is a grad shoot. The second one is a prom shoot. So yeah, so you have Lightroom pulled up, and then what you want to do is you go to the Develop tab. Then we can go all the way to the beginning. I take a shit ton of photos in my sessions. Excuse my language. But yeah, so first thing you want to do is just like finding a good example that I like to like really drive in the authenticity of like this video. I promise you that whatever I edit right now is exactly what I'm gonna send to my client. And so yeah, so basically like the edit that I make right now, it's literally the exact thing that I'll send to my client. For this graduation shoot, usually like if it's for personal stuff, I do all the editing myself. But in this case, I'll use like a preset that I found online, and then tweak the stuff like later. Um, but yeah, but the other photos, like for like prom and stuff, I'll edit that on my own, and then you'll see what my process is to that. But this is like, let's say this is like a preset process, and because it's like for a client and stuff like that. So yeah, So there's two different presets that I like going through. So there's the Magic Film 800, And then the LR Portra 400. The LR Portra 400, it has like a lot more greens versus the Magic Film 800. It's kind of like, it has like more washed out colors. But I think I like this one more as a starting point. The shoot for this was also like all guys, and I kind of like try to base like the style of editing based on what I think the client would like. And I already used this one for a grad shoot where there were a lot more girls. Not saying like a certain editing style is more girly. Like I could use this for this client, and I'm sure he'd love it. But just in my head, what I'm associating with like the personalities of these guys is Magic Film 800. The thing with these presets is that they have built-in grain into them, and what I'm gonna do is just take that all the way down. And then, okay, so this is a decent starting image. The one thing I do is fix the framing. We can do auto for straightening. And then a big thing is like composition and like placing. Like people, like this can really like make or break your image, and it can actually like really enhance it if you don't really like it at first. And especially since you're using like a professional camera, you can really crop in damn near as far as you want. But yeah, so I kind of like that frame right there. Matter of fact, let me bring it up a bit. Make it a little bit tighter. Really want to center him. Okay. Yeah, I like that. All right, so that looks decent, right? However, I think that day the sun was really harsh, and because of that, I want to like bring up the temperature like a tad, not too far. I feel like that's good enough. Like this is what it looks like. That's way too orange, right? And I think that's where it was at before, but we can like bring it up a little bit more to like emphasize like about like the sunlight somewhere around there. I think that's good. The exposure. Let's see what it looks like if we bring it up. I think I like it when it's up a bit, and the highlight's already down, but I like to like really take them all the way down, and also maybe bring down the exposure a bit as well so that the highlights have room. Okay, that's looking all right. Contrast is already down. I usually do that when I'm editing my own stuff as well, but we can play around with it. I think I'm gonna add a little bit more. Okay. The blacks are lifted all the way up. Let's see. Just to add some even more contrast, because you don't really care about like the shadows that are over here. And so we can bring that down, and then you see like we get even more detail up here and up here, which is like where we literally want the detail, right? All right, but we don't like make his face super hard to see. Okay, and then the dehaze is down because of the preset. Let's see. I'm not gonna lie, I like it kind of like at 11. I feel like that's fine. Texture is already, clarity's +5, but I think I'll bring that down a bit. I kind of like this like little bloom effect that you get when you bring it down. And then the texture I'll bring back up to like counter that, so that we're not losing detail. So like put it at +8 or something like that. And this is all like arbitrary. It's really like your eye gets used to it as you do this more and more. But yeah, and the vibrance and saturation are also down. Saturation, what that does is it increases like the intensity of all the colors. And so I usually bring that down in an image. I don't really like touching that too much. But the vibrance, it's super helpful. It basically evenly, kind of matches the saturation of all other colors, like equitably. That's what I want to say, but like you'll see. So like since that's a -16, we want to bring like some color, but not too much. You see how like crazy it gets. Like that's, I don't know. To y'all it might look good, but to me like it's too saturated. Like something like this. I think that looks great. I think that looks good. Okay. And then the shadows are also lifted. I might bring that down a bit, and then that only really affects the dark parts of the image. So something like that's fine. Okay, so that's like really the big stuff that really affects your image. And then it has no sharpening, but I'll add a little more, a little bit of sharpening. And then when you do sharpening, what you want to do is, what it does is like it sharpens everything in the image, and you don't want that. I don't know if y'all can see, but it's sharpening everything. And so what you want to do to counteract that is you want to like bring up the masking so that it detects like the sharp edges, and it'll like, instead of make like adding grain to the image, it'll like focus the sharpening on like the actual edges that are in the image. So yeah, I learned that from YouTube Academy, bro. Trying to tell y'all. But yeah, and honestly, I think this is a great image. Profile corrections already done. This removing chromatic aberration, you can do that. Personally, I kind of like the look of the chromatic aberration. I don't know if that's like professional or not, but chromatic aberration is kind of like it has like a little like a split effect. Like it's like that. I don't really know how to explain it, but you can like search it up. But it's like when the lens kind of like splits the edges of like certain parts of the image into like different RGB wavelengths, and it has like a little bit of an offset. But yeah, and that's basically what it is. I kind of like leaving it because it gives it like a little bit of character. But this image, I think it's great. I don't know how to see like the before and after. This is basically what it looked like before. And then this is the finished edit. Looking back at that, actually, you always want to like make sure you're not like tweaking, right? So I think it's a tad bit too long, so I'll bring it down just a bit. And look at that. That pretty much is everything. And yeah, this is something that I would send to the client. All right. Something else that I will say is kind of important probably to mention is masking. And masking can be really, really useful, but it can also very, very easily be overdone and like tacky. And especially with like big projects like this, where how many pictures do I have? I think I have like, in this like upload alone, not just this session, but like, I think there's 3 sessions overall. I have 2,800 photos, right? So it's like going in and like masking every single photo. Like there's 2 problems with that. One, it's not really necessary. You know, it's like masking. You don't need it for every photo. Like it's not gonna make your photos magically look better. And you have to know when to use it, when not to use it. And also 2, it's so much effort, right? Like 2,800 photos is a ridiculous amount to be masking for. But for this photo specifically, like just for the sake of this video, this is what I would do in terms of masking. I create a radial mask, you know, the sunlight, you know, there's already like a lens flare coming from over here, like this thing right there. Since that's there, you can do like something like that, and then really kind of like exaggerate. And then what I like to do is bring it over here, just like make sure it like realistically follows like where the sun would be coming, you know, like the shadows over there, so the sun must be over here. But yeah, and then we subtract the person from it so that it retains all the information on the person you don't really want to touch. And I find that it just like looks better. Let's see, so like people, like person, and the detect feature is pretty good. So you just do that, and then it subtracts that from the thing, and then just add a touch of exposure, like 0.4 seconds. You know, a little bit of the highlights. Decrease the shadows a tad. Cut the shadows a bit. I don't know, make it a bit warmer so it simulates real sunlight. And bring down the clarity. So it looks like hitting, bring down the dehaze, but not too much. And then bring up the contrast so it's like a little bit more believable. And then it's super, super subtle, right? But like that versus that. And that's kind of like where you want to leave it, right? And you could push it, you know, you don't have to make it like as subtle as I did right here. But at the same time, it's like you want to, it's a grad shoot, you know, it's not like an experimental thing and you want to please the client. And also, just in my opinion, you don't need masking for every photo. Like, it's just not necessary. But yeah, this is something that I'm going to send the client, like, I swear to God. But yeah, this is the final image. Let's see, I don't know how the hell to full screen it. Can you tell I'm a beginner in Lightroom Classic?
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on.
Alright, so that's the first photo. Done. Let's edit this. And for this one, you know what? We'll edit this. No preset. No preset. We going raw, yeah.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think this is a great looking image. Everything's sharp. Is it? Mostly. Well, in my opinion. Let's see. It's sharper. Yeah, I think it might be better actually. But yeah, so I think it's a good starting image. We can probably crop that guy out. Not that guy as like as if he's not the date. But yeah, all right. So first thing I want to do is this is where you start your stuff. You know, like exposure, contrast, highlight, shadows, whites, and blacks. The white balance, I think it's fine for now. Usually in these type of situations when I'm doing it, when I'm completely editing by myself, I kind of use the white balance as like a creative tool rather than like a tool to actually fix the image. So yeah, but in terms of exposure, we can up it a little bit. Lower the contrast. I always lower the contrast just because it allows you to like, it kind of like gets back more information. It's like kind of like a cheat code to get back more information in your image. And then for highlights, I always bring them down because it's like, again, more information. Like you see how much like info you get in the clouds versus like, you don't want a blown out sky. Like you want to like retain some information. And then there's shadows. So when you up your shadows, it's like you get way more information, but it's like it makes it grainier. And that's one way to get like a filmy kind of look, but I think upping your blacks is a better way. So I'll take down the shadows to like add some more contrast instead of, you know, there's funny enough, like most of the ways that you would think like intuitively you want to do a certain thing, there's always like a longer road to doing essentially what you want to do in your mind, and it'll actually like be better than what's presented to you. And the way you find that is literally just scouring the internet for hours. But yeah. Okay, so the whites, I don't really test the whites. I mean, we can play around with it. I know we can bring it down a bit, I guess. Like -2, but I'm not really that pressed. And then for the blacks, do I want to up it? I think I'll leave it. But yeah. And then I skip these because these are kind of like a finisher. Maybe I'll do the saturation vibrance after I do the curves. But yeah, for the curves, you know, always set S curve to like really bring back the saturation. So we bring the blacks down, bring the highlights up, and then you see like how much more, like look at that, way more contrast. And I do want to give it like a stylized look. And so since this is a prom shoot, you know, I think you can be a little bit more creative than like a grad shoot. You know, I can bring the shadows up, and you know, it's like if it looks good, it looks good. Or if it doesn't look good, it doesn't look good. You know, I think a little bit. I think it might look better after we do everything else. And then we'll leave that there. Bring down the saturation so that we can up the vibrance. You see? She looks great. It's like yeah, it's like a soft. Yeah, but it actually works. It works.
It does work. It's just oh, you recording?
Yeah, it's good. It's all good. It's all good. I got time.
He's using a giant bag as a freaking diffuser.
Yeah,
but it works.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine, like, obviously it bounces raised light, what that actually does.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, and so when we're thinking about that, all right, so this is like basic corrections. And so now we want to do is get into stylizing. And we can start like this is where we get into like color grading, right? Color grading, that's like the big thing. And we can do texture clarity dehaze, but I don't really want to do that right now. And then we can either do like these, the curves, or we can go straight down to literally where it says color grading. And they are both very powerful. Today we'll just start with the color grading thing. And so each circle tells you where you want to, shift the color of whatever it says on it. So, if you want to shift the color of the shadows, you go here, midtones here, highlights here. And so you just got to think, what would look good, right? You want to do like complementary colors, just like think about, what do you think in your head would be a good thing? And so usually what I do is I like to put either a little green or a little blue in the shadows. Like most of the time that works for me because like everything else you could really have to like think about it. But like something like this, you can't really see that a little bit more, not too much. It's like what looks better. I feel like the green is a little bit too contrasting. And I think I like the teal better. And then for midtones, since midtones is like skin, I'll just up it towards around like that orange color. It'll affect their skin tone a tad, of course. But I think we can always fix it in later in the color mixer. So her skin tone, you don't really have to worry like too much. And then highlights, like we can make it like yellow. Like, you can just like play around with it, honestly. You could do this, but there's like a better way to do this and make it look better using the curves. I kind of like that like split tone, like kind of image thing. Yeah. Like a little orange. I like usually midtones and highlights are kind of like the same direction. But yeah. And so then you can change your blending to whatever looks best. Look, yeah, I like the exaggerated look. And balance. Like somewhere around here is nice. And so then you come to the curves. And this is really like, this tests the hell out of your patience because this is where you really develop like the look. So you can come here and then do I want to add a little bit of red to my shadows or blue to my shadows? And I already added like teal, so it might help to like kind of like exaggerate that a bit there. Maybe bring the shadows up this way, maybe this way, nope, that way. And yes, again, her skin will look a little bit off, and that's okay, we can fix that later. You're really like searching for the look of your image in this at this point. And then if you go a certain direction here, you have to go like the opposite direction, like a little bit lower down, so you can neutralize, like so the rest of your image isn't looking funky. Okay. all right. And you see, like, I like that, like, little roll off of, like, between, like, the colors. You're, like, kind of, like, adding colors that aren't there. But at the same time, like, I think it looks good at the end. And then I like adding, like, a little bit of green. Maybe just... You don't want that. And yeah, see, this is the thing. Like, it really does test your patience, bro. Like, okay, yeah, and then this is where, and it's really just just a bunch of tweaking, bro. I'm not gonna hold you. Like adding yellows to the highlights. You gotta blue. I like how that looks. Yeah, like adding a little bit to the shadows. Okay. I don't hate how that looks. I'm not gonna lie. And you come down here, and then this is HSL. HSL is honestly like your best friend because you can tweak every color individually. And personally, I think the greens look really vibrant, and I don't like that. So we can like change the hue of the green, so we can make that like a little bit more yellow. Bring the saturation down. We can also bring the luminance down. Also completely change it if we want, you know. But I don't want to do that. Okay. And then after that, what else? The blue of the car, do we want to change that? That's not blue. Let's make it like a deeper blue. So it's contrasting. Change the saturation. I think we'll keep it, yeah, a little bit more actually. But then take down the luminance so it really focuses on her. Right. What else do we want to change? And then this is also really great. So this, we can like fix our skin tone now. So you literally just click on the skin, shows you that, and then you don't really, unless like it's really bad and you have to like fix the image, you don't really have to play with the hue shift. We might play with it a little bit, but I think we're gonna add like a little bit of saturation. Maybe bring it down. Maybe actually keep it up. Maybe play with this. Nah. See, that's because it makes it look a little bit too red. Maybe. I think I like that. I really like that. One thing I don't like is how the back, and then you can do this for any part of the image. Like, I really don't like how that looks. I feel like it makes it ugly. And so we can literally just bring down the saturation. I feel like that makes it look so much better, personally. I think that's a much better green than it was before. Like, it was ugly. What else can we do? Oh yeah. Again with the sharpening, it's already up a bit. We just add some more masking, so focuses that. And so here, this is where we can add like a tad bit of texture, so we get some more information. Bring down the clarity, get that like little glow. See the difference that it makes? We don't want that like too much though. Somewhere like 14 is good. And DAs, maybe add like plus 2. And I think that's great. So this is what like before and after. How do we do? So this is the before. You see? And again, like this is merely like a stylistic choice, you know, like there aren't any reds in her dress here, right? And there aren't any greens here, but I think personally that it looks better. And that's really that's really it. Okay. I say that this is really kind of like the best advice that I can give y'all, other than, you know, the video. Good editing, there's two things, you know. So good editing is the one thing is that like the changes all add up, you know. There's a purpose behind every single change that you are doing, right? You need to have like, okay, why are you bringing the temperature up, right? Warm image might like look good, but like why? You know, like why are you making it warm if the scene didn't look warm? Like, okay, there can be an artistic reason, but there still needs to be a reason for, you know, you bringing up the temp, right? So every time I bring up the temperature, I was like, oh, it was a really sunny day, and I'm gonna bring up the temperature so that we know that the sun was there. And so like that was my reasoning for bringing up the temperature. Or in the prom clip, I brought down the tint to something more green because, you know, there was too much red in her dress. Like there needs to be a reason. Either like one, you're balancing out the image, or you're two, there's an artistic reason, right? What I'm thinking is like every single change should be as subtle as possible without being so subtle that it's unnoticeable, if that makes sense. And then the second thing is you have to know the rules in order to be able to comfortably break them and still have good content, right? And so if you're not studying like what professionals are doing and you're going from scratch, you can do that, right? No one is stopping you. Absolutely no one is stopping you, but you're hindering yourself. Like there's absolutely no reason to go through the same mistakes people have gone through for the past like what 50, 100 years that photography's like even been a thing, when you can just look up someone who is a professional in this and don't just copy their workflow, but like incorporate their skills and the advice that they give you into yours so that it makes you better at what your style is. And so that's that's the only advice that I can say. So, you know, go on YouTube, find the creators that you like, learn how to emulate their style. All artists are thieves, you know, as the great philosopher Gox once said. All artists are thieves. So go respectfully steal some other artist's style and then incorporate it into your own stuff. Change it, you know, remix it, do whatever the hell you want to do, and then make some good shit, bro. Just make some good shit happen. That's all I gotta say. Thank y'all for having me. Thank y'all for watching. We're gonna be going crazy this summer, like I said. So stay tuned, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.